Hey, it's Nitya with Karma Chameleon. I am happy to see you today. And was digging around, just thinking about different famous people that have had really interesting life stories, and jumping away from our Hollywood world a little bit here. I thought I would look at the astrology, the BaZi Chinese astrology of Frida Kahlo. So, if you have landed on this beautiful channel, then you have come to the place for, yes, where we do read celebrity and famous people's BaZi Chinese astrology charts, but we also talk about feng shui and flying stars feng shui. So, if this sounds like something you're interested in, please subscribe, like, hit the bell, all the good things, and feel free to leave questions and comments. So Frida Kahlo, born July 6th, 1907, long time ago, 8:30 in the morning. And her chart, of course, no surprise, is very surprising. In the 20 years that I've been offering BaZi Chinese astrology readings and feng shui consultations, there's plenty of people out there that have balanced charts. They're just humming along. Things just happen. Not anything big, dramatic. No great big losses or inconveniences even. Just life humming along. Some might even venture to say it's boring. Maybe they just came into this life to just enjoy the ride. I don't know. But many people come in with really out of balance charts. And it's interesting because this one makes me think of some of the recent charts that I've read of celebrities. Kim Kardashian comes to mind, Beyonce. When you have so much of your own energy, it can lead to what I have found in the 1,000 charts or more that I've written. Two things happens. One is big ego. Here I am, and the world is all about me. So it kind of means that everybody, your children, your spouse, your network, your friends, everybody has to kind of be accepting of the fact that if they're going to be in your life, they've got to come into your world. And then there's people who have such an overwhelming amount of their own chart, of their own element, that it leads to, almost makes me think of something along the lines of autism, where you're overwhelmed by your own self, and makes it very hard for you to really be out in the world in an interactive way. You're more likely to succumb to the medical issues that fall in line with that element. So for Frida, she is born yin fire sheep year, a yang fire horse month, and a yang fire dragon day, and a yang water dragon hour. So this is, she has across the top, her stems, fire, 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 and then water. And in a lot of ways, that yang water hanging out on top of the dragon in her hour it's kind of lost with, all the controlling elements around it. So this chart is over 60% her own fire self. Art, the creation of art, is the fire element. And so I know that she had originally wanted to be a doctor, which is the earth element, and really would have been a great path for her. Her earth is strong at 30%, but at least it would have given her motivation to get out of her world, herself. I think for her, there was just like this constant struggle of that self. How do I carry all of this with me, right? This is a real, I tell you, when I'm looking at specific dates of things that happened in her life, it is really, wow. It's, how life lines us up to experience the things that we experience. Everything from an accident to a marriage, to a divorce, to the birth of a child, to suddenly changing your career. So she's very weak in wood, only 6%. That's fine. Except when you have a chart like this that's so special, you don't want the enemy here. And I picked the enemy as metal. Her water is balanced at 15%. And I would even say that in a chart like this, it's a fire pattern. And so what happens when we are near our death, which can be any age, any time, right? We don't know. I mean, it's not like we're going to walk around checking our astrology every day and every hour. Oh my gosh, this isn't a day to get on a plane, or this isn't a day to get in my car. You lose the beauty of being able to live your life. Just have to, in life, in my wisdom of my 56 years on this earth, what I have learned the most is faith, trust, be fearless, be brave, be bold, and accept. Big overarching all of those lovely qualities is accepting what happens and not building up resentment and anger and blame and being a victim, but rather accepting this is what's happened. What can I learn from this? What can I learn from having my leg shattered in an accident? What can I learn from being thrown from a horse? What can I learn from this divorce that I didn't see coming? If we shift ourselves to that place, life all of a sudden becomes a real school of growth. And what a journey this poor woman had, and the legacy that she left behind of her art is amazing. Her art is so famous worldwide, so widely recognized. So we've got this extraordinary imbalance. Now, she was really close to her father. He shows up as Yang Fire. They are best buds. Mom shows up as Yin Fire. Now, why we don't get along with somebody sometimes is they show you a side of yourself maybe you don't like. Maybe deep down inside, you're just a pissed off person. And you don't allow yourself to be angry. But that's in you. It's part of you. It's a side of you you don't show. But that person in your life does show it, and you don't like it. It can also be gifts that we have that for whatever reason we aren't able to say, yes, I am awesome at that. And so somebody's highlighting something that you're kind of shying away from. Okay. Her relationship, her romantic relationship is very interesting for a woman who had this big relationship Diego Rivera. Multiple affairs that they had upon each other, and she's also bisexual. So that's all interesting. And when we look at what is she looking for in a relationship? She's looking for somebody that she can, I would say she's looking for creative expression. And I think it makes sense that she was with an artist for so long. I don't know why she picked a man so much older than her. Was it that he was successful and that felt like security and comfort to her? Was it that she had such an awesome relationship with her father that she naturally gravitated towards someone who was older? We don't know. Or maybe we do. Maybe you do. I don't know. So the dragon here in her day shows somebody with this desire to be with somebody that is, it's like enjoyment, having fun, and doing things together in a creative way. Okay. And within this, tucked in, there is the mother, nurturing, patience, kindness, and the family. And in this, we see a husband, we see a committed relationship, and we see that nest that is family. And the fact that that is so rooted in her day pillar really does show the longevity, the potential longevity for a romantic relationship. All right. There are a number of key things that I want to delve into and share with you. Interestingly enough, this was a woman who was very social. Really, it's interesting she wanted to be a doctor because in her chart is the desire to be someone who helps people. So she really had that in her. She wanted to help people. I feel like that big, ginormous accident that she had sidelined. I think when you're in a lot of pain, it's very hard to think beyond the pain. And I'm sure her art was her way of expressing it, for sure. All right, so we've got some really interesting things going on with this woman. So we've got all this fire, and there's a semi-fire seasonal trio there with her sheep and the month of the horse. Now, the other interesting thing to mention, the sheep brings in an artistic quality, but aside from that, there really isn't a whole lot of creativity in her chart. Interesting. What we find with those two dragons is somebody with a force. She has very strong life force energy in her day pillar and in her career, her hour. Lot of strong, youthful energy that served her for sure. So you've got the dragon who is enigmatic. People are drawn to dragons. There's something very mystical about them. And they're natural leaders. She was very independent. She needed balance and stability in her life. She did not like chaos. She did not like conflict. And Lord knows she married a man that brought her a lot of that. And in some ways, I'm just thinking out loud that it feels like maybe some of that chaos, again, was an external expression of the rage and all that was going on inside of her physical body, especially as the relationship went on and became more problematic and with more affairs, especially with him cheating on her sister, one of her sisters. Christy, I think her name was. And it's like, wow, what a slap that would be, right? Even though we're talking about, 100 years ago, and certainly life was very different for women back then, and the dynamic of a marriage. All right. So, yes, this is somebody very independent, did not like to be told what to do, just a sovereign self. I mean, after all the energy, ultimately, really, her chart is so dominated by herself and what she creates. Okay, so we're going to break down a little bit. I thought it was interesting that her life pillar mirrors her year. And it speaks to somebody who is intuitive, smart, and plays different roles. And I think some of that might have been a challenge for her. And rooted in this is the relationship of the mother. All right. And I know that her mother was pretty beastly. I think that she had a number of siblings. Maybe the mom was just overwhelmed. Maybe she was miserable in her marriage. Such a sad thing. But again, it was a different time. And I think for many women, once you got married, you didn't think, there was not even the consideration that you had any other option. I guess in some cultures today, we still have that, which is very sad to think that people can't have their own sovereign self. Yeah. All right. So the other thing about this yin fire sheep is this feels like someone who really is needing peace and wants to have peace, wants to live in peace. And that dragon demands it with a mighty roar, with 2 dragons. So her first luck cycle shift is as an infant. So she was born in 1907. And so this was 1908, before her first birthday. She comes into, this is interesting, and I haven't seen many of these, where your life pillar shows up in your first luck cycle, which means the first 9 years of her life taught her everything about what her life would be. And what do we find there? Polio. My father had polio. But he was born like 20 years after she was, in a different time for sure. But so she had polio. What comes to mind with this is the fact that there's no metal. This is going to greatly impact your ability to breathe. All right, so we have polio. This is beginning the journey of her life. A life of intuition, of being really smart, though because of her sickness, she was delayed in going to school. That extra sheep, we now have 2 sheep coming in with this luck cycle, is also surging more fire into her chart. The mother is mentioned. And I would say this is an interesting thing. It's almost like like as you're coming into your own agency. Who am I? What am I? Who is Frida? I'm a little girl growing up and I'm learning who I am. And there's almost like this perpetual identity crisis going on of who I am. And I would imagine if you're growing up with a mother who you have separated in your infancy with this first Lux cycle shift, breaks you away from that initial connection to your mother. There's damage there. All right. So one of the other things to notice is as we propel forward with her Lux cycles is the presence of metal. Metal being the enemy to somebody so dominant in this fire chart. All right, so this is where things get very interesting. The day of that accident, September 17th, 1925, was a day of the Yang Wood dragon her. Just recognize she is the dragon here. Next is the month of Yin Wood rooster. Okay. And the year Yin Wood ox. So the top stems are all wood. What breaks wood? Metal. All right, so what we have is a semi-metal trio. That current Lux cycle of when this accident happened was Yang Earth Monkey, which is Yang metal. So you have the rooster and the ox form a semi-metal trio. You've got her Lux cycle monkey and the rooster forming another. So you have a seasonal and a traditional, two semi-fire metal trios. And with this surge of metal on this day, and the ox harming her horse in her month, which is a harm to her fire. It's a harm to herself. What I am seeing is a clash of wood and metal. Metal being that rod. Here is the crazy thing. Her life, her chart has a Ren pattern. A Ren pattern is showing up in her month. And what does Ren mean? It means knife or a blade. How crazy is that? That all of these pieces, it's like little clues that piece together. That blade is inserted literally in her dragon self, in her life, this pattern. And it shows somebody that is very sensitive and causes them harm and perpetual enemies. Perpetual harm, perpetual enemies. Don't like to use this word, but it's like she was cursed from the very beginning. It was a matter of time for Frida to have an incident happen like this that would change her life. That railing went right into her, punctured her uterus, broke her pelvis, shattered her leg. I mean, she had so many injuries, broke her back. In many ways, it's a wonder she even survived. When you go on through her life and you see periods where she was depressed when her father died in 1941, a year of a yin metal snake, and then again 12 years later when half of her leg was amputated, she was an alcoholic, suicidal, drug abuse, all of this going on. That year, 1953, a yin water snake. Now, why is the snake showing up and being so interesting? When the snake shows up, 1941, 1953, which was the year before she died at the young age of 47. Full fire trio. Of course she's depressed. Of course she's abusing drugs and alcohol. Mental health. They wondered if she died from heart disease. I see this as somebody whose chart was so overwhelmed with her own element that it was to her detriment. Whenever you see that surge of the snake come in, is when her mental health could simply not take all of that energy. Fascinating. This is really and truly a fascinating chart. The day she died was Yang Metal Horse Day, Yin Metal Sheep Month, and a Yang Wood Fire year. So again, we have that surge of metal coming in, and it's the enemy. And just like her luck cycle from age 10 to 19 was a monkey, yang metal, in the next luck cycle, when she was ages 20 to 29, there was the yin rooster. When she went into her next luck cycle, it was a yang metal dog, and her last luck cycle, a yin metal pig. She lived with the enemy. She lived carrying the blade, carrying the sword. And even in an interview, she described that accident and that pole going into her as if she had been stabbed by a sword. Truly fascinating. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found this also a very interesting BaZi astrology read, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Be well.